But first to the story that's breaking this evening. India has downgraded its diplomatic ties with Canada. India has withdrawn its High Commissioner from Ottawa. Canada had declared India's High Commissioner Sanjay Verma and other diplomats as persons of interest in the killing of Nijjar, a Khalistani separatist. India has called Canada's charge a deliberate smear campaign. India has now responded by saying they have no faith in the Trudeau government, and this is a step towards that direction in sending out a tough message to Ottawa by withdrawing their High Commissioner. Meanwhile, let's listen into what the Canadian chargé d'affaires said after he met with the Indian officials here in Delhi.
The Government of Canada has done what India has long been asking for. Canada has provided credible, irrefutable evidence of ties between agents of the Government of India and a murder of a Canadian citizen on Canadian soil. Now it is time for India to live up to what it said it would do and look into those allegations. It is in the interest of both our countries and the peoples of our countries to get to the bottom of this. Canada stands ready to cooperate with India.
Okay, let me get a quick first update from Shashank Mattu. He tracks foreign affairs for us. Shashank, all of this suggests an escalatory spiral between the two countries. How are the Canadians responding to it, and what has prompted India now to take this decision?
No, absolutely. I think the Indian government has essentially decided that it's at the end of its tether with its patience with Canada. I have been on the phone with a number of top diplomats over the last hour, and all of them have struggled to recall such a time that India has taken a decision like this. They were saying that, look, the last time India has ever withdrawn an ambassador like this is when we were clashing with Pakistan back in 2016. So to pull out a high commissioner from a country like Canada is an absolutely unprecedented step. The Indian government has also very clearly and very, very rarely does it actively directly name countries as supporters of extremism and terrorism, but it's directly named Justin Trudeau and the Canadian government as supporters of extremism, supporters of anti-India separatism, which is again an extraordinary statement in and of itself. So really the Indian government has also stated that it has no trust in the Canadian government to fulfill its obligations towards Indian diplomats. Remember that there have been threats to the lives of Indian diplomats several times. High Commissioner Sanjay Verma himself has been the target of lots of Khalistani propaganda that have directly called for violence against him, bullets to be fired on him, and India's view is that the Canadian government has not done anything to assuage those security concerns. In fact, now they're saying that the High Commissioner is somehow a person of interest in an assassination controversy. Rajdeep, I've talked to several people who are all saying that, look, if you want to accuse a sitting Indian High Commissioner of something like this, you have to understand that intelligence and diplomacy are two very, very separate spheres. This is not something that a High Commissioner would in any way be involved with. So the Canadian allegations are ridiculous. So the Indian government responding with what it sees as baseless allegations, allegations to smear India. So this is why you see such an angry reaction.
Okay. Shashank Mattu explaining why India has responded so angrily to Canada naming the Indian High Commissioner as a person of interest in the Nijjar probe. Joining me now, Anil Trigunath, former diplomat, and KC Singh, former Secretary MEA. Appreciate both of you joining us. KC, your first reactions to what India has done. We've seen the Canadian chargé d'affaires come out of that meeting from the MEA and maintain that they provided credible evidence of alleged Indian involvement in the Nijjar murder. How far it appears even Canada is really pushing the envelope, and all of this is playing out in the public domain.
Rajdeep, there are multiple tracks to this. Let's go a few months back. When Prime Minister went to US, the NSA never went with him, because there was suspected to be a court order that might be floating around in New York. So there is a US track.
That's the Pannoon plot. That's the Pannoon plot.
No, correct. But if you remember correctly, what was emerging from the conversations leaked by the Americans when they entrapped the Indian, they were saying we have a long list. If you can't do it, then we'll go and, we've got other people on it. And the Pannu thing happened immediately after this conversation.
No, but we've taken a very different track, if I may say so, KC, to Washington compared to Ottawa. Ottawa, we are going hard. With the US, we haven't done so. So why go hard on Canada at this moment?
No, I'm not saying that the behavior is identical. I'm saying in US, that's why US has defended Canada and said, look, we are sharing intelligence. I think initially the Americans had more intelligence. Then the Canadians set about investigating. They have arrested a few people. Then there was PM's meeting in Laos with Trudeau, which didn't go very well. I tweeted after that. I said it wasn't a dialogue. It was two monologues because India was talking of secessionists and Trudeau not doing enough. And Trudeau was saying defense of his citizens, I will protect them. So India and Canada were already on severely different tracks. It was headed. But I think what the Canadians did is over the top. You don't do this to a head of mission. If you're not happy with the head of mission, declare him persona non grata. But to say he's a person of interest is to say that he's a suspect in a murder investigation taking place, which is completely unimaginable. No High Commissioner would know anything about it, even if there is an Indian involvement. The intelligence agencies hardly on a thing like this would keep the High Commissioners in the loop. And just not about India. In case of America, CIA, you think it operates with the knowledge of the concerned head of mission? No way. So, this was, I think, provocative. And Trudeau's playing to a domestic constituency. His standing is down. He faces an election. All assessment is that he may lose the election. So he's hanging on more dearly to what he perceives as loyal vote. And therefore, he's playing this card.
How far, though, Anil Trigunath, should India go? As KC Singh says, it's almost unprecedented for an Indian High Commissioner to be declared a person of interest in a murder probe. Given what Canada has done, given the way in which the Shardi affair just now also spoke, saying we provided credible evidence, how far can India go beyond withdrawing the High Commissioner, downsizing its mission, given that we have more than 4 lakh students in Canada, strong interest between the two countries? How far can we go in this tit-for-tat battle?
Well, at the outset, I would like to say, Rajdeep, that Canada is an important country and we have had good relations with them. But as far as Trudeau's are concerned, we have been seeing that they have been indulging in promoting, pandering, and perpetuating anti-Indian extremist, radical, and separatist groups. And that is the crux of the problem. And now, in order to, as Trudeau is going to testify in front of a commission on regarding foreign interference, that's why it has been provoked now at this stage. They have, of course, not provided any credible evidence, as the government of India has been asking again and again. And so they keep ratcheting it up all the time, these issues. It's not the first time. This is doing for myopic political ends, as we all know. But at the same time, this is something that India has done because you know that today the SDF, after they declare our High Commissioner and some senior diplomats as the persons of interest, that the Sikh for Justice SJF group has once again brought out the photographs of High Commissioner Sanjay Verma with the bullet-ridden face and all that. I mean, this is something ridiculous that happening in that country, where if Canada wants to stand in the company of Pakistan, that's perfectly fine for them. I mean, that's okay, but they cannot just jeopardize the security of our people. And that's why the Indian statement says that we have no
how much further though? How much further can we go? We've recalled our High Commissioner. What more can we do?
Relationship is at its lowest today. Now the next step is to probably ask them to recall their ambassador, and we might have it at a very low level. And eventually this will happen in certain other cases. We'll have to find the ways where we have leverage with them, and we'll continue to apply pressure off and on. And this game will continue for some time.
Yeah, given though the stakes involved, KC Singh, what's your sense? Can India push maybe the United States, maybe some of the other countries of the Five Eyes who apparently share intelligence? Can they push these countries to make Canada see sense that you can't play it out in public domain simply for your domestic constituency? You're playing with fire. Trudeau is playing with fire.
Look, the Americans, as I told you, they already have a case in a court in New York. And they've arrested an Indian. He's been extradited. He's there. And the Canadians have been conducting an inquiry. So the thing to do is, okay, tell us what is the proof that your inquiry has come up with. But at the same time say that this is not a done thing, that you start naming the High Commissioner as a person of interest. Tomorrow you'll say it's a Home Minister of India. Then you'll say, it's whoever else in India. You don't do that. Diplomatically, normal thing, if you're very unhappy with the role a High Commissioner may have played, just declare him PNG, that we don't want him here. Please withdraw him. But don't threaten him with a murder case. I mean, that's provocative. You just don't do that. And as far as other countries are concerned, look, Americans have backed the Canadians in the past. Don't forget this. And because Americans have more proof than is available with the Canadians, and Canadians only picked up the investigations once the American proof became public. So there is more to it than we can see at the moment. It would have been better if India sat down with them and said, okay, we are willing to, rather than we've adopted this dual track. With the Americans, we keep quiet, we lump it, and with the Canadians, we take them on. We are behaving as if we can divide the two. That's not going to happen. On a matter like this, where the Indian community is there in both the countries, the two will not be separated simply because we take on Canada and we are very soft in dealing with the Americans.
Mr. Tringu and Nayat, is the best way to do this behind closed doors? The more public we make it, the more we run the risk of getting on an escalatory spiral that could even draw in the Americans. Is that a worry? Should that be a concern? Can we separate Canada and the United States, given that both these countries claim that they have evidence?
Well, Rajdeep, I don't have great faith in that because the Western countries, they have their friendships, they have their Five Eyes partnership, and they apparently all this thing started at the nodding of the American ambassador. That's how the reports came in. Whatever electronic signals they picked up, that was there. They don't have any concrete evidence, and that's the reason the Indian government has been asking if you have. Of course, if they had something, we have intelligence exchange programs with them, we have cooperation, and these things could be handled there if that something happens. Like the Americans, of course, also again gone a step further. But the fact is that what kind of people are you talking about? I mean, under the garb of this freedom of right or this, that, these are very lame excuses. This is essentially just to put pressure on India and in government, and this is something that's not going to fly.
You're saying it's not going to fly, but the fact is I'm just seeing a Washington Post has now come out with an editorial where they are suggesting senior government officials of India were involved in taking on Indian dissidents, as they are calling them, which really were Khalistani extremists. KC Singh, in conclusion, do you believe that how far can India go in pushing Canada now? What more can we do?
I think with the US presidential election just under 3 weeks away, I don't think the current administration will get involved. We don't know who is going to be the next US president. But as far as the American position is concerned, they have a person on tape, they have a person, money being handed over, and they managed to extradite him from Czech Republic. To say that the Americans don't have any proof, we are saying the Czech courts were silly.
That's Nikhil Gupta. Nikhil Gupta has been extradited, yes.
Yeah, so that means the Czech court was just stupid. There was a whole extradition proceeding that took place there, where the Americans have presented evidence that this person was involved in a conspiracy. Now, what has emerged from the Canadian, because Canadians have also arrested a couple of individuals.
Yes.
We don't know what those individuals have said and what is the extent of it. So therefore, public squabble is not the solution. When you don't know enough,
right,
all you can say is senior diplomats are not involved in this. Anyone else is, let's sit down and talk about it.
You're saying you can talk about it behind closed doors. Let's not make this a public war of words. I think that's a clear message that's going out. The last thing we want is a public war of words at the moment in the manner that's taking place between India and Canada. It doesn't serve the interests of either countries at the moment. We need to find a way to resolve this without going on an escalatory spiral. I appreciate my two guests joining me here on my big breaking story this evening.